Welcome back to the Audio Academy podcast. I'm your host, Georgie Jameson, and this week we bring you highlights from the Crossed Wires Podcast Festival in Sheffield. Now in its third year, the festival has doubled in size, welcoming 50,000 people from around the world to 80 live podcast shows across 11 venues and stages. I grabbed a chat with as many people as I could as I hot-footed it around Sheffield city centre, catching up with podcast recordings and live events. I wanted to know how the dynamic of your podcast changes when you record and perform in front of a live audience. In a moment, we'll hear from Nicky Campbell, who was there with the Don't Say a Word podcast, chatting to South Yorkshire stand-ups about offence in comedy, and to Marianna Spring from Top Comment about how to sort your social media algorithm out. But first, let's hear what the festival creative director, Radio 1's Greg James, had to say on the Crosswires Festival socials before he hopped off to a certain wedding.
Podcasts are supposed to be just really super serving an audience. They're supposed to be niche, they're supposed to be weird and celebrate all types of people from all different communities, and radio has this amazing way of bringing people together, and podcasts do exactly the same.
We have just watched Don't Say a Word, and it's on my absolute favourite topic, which is comedy and cancelling. And we talked about anything you couldn't make a joke about. Is there anything you wouldn't make a joke about?
Well, I think they covered it brilliantly. You can make a joke about anything if it's properly structured and the target is right and you kind of are delivering a message. Maybe that's the case. Maybe anything can be funny. I don't know.
We talked about earlier comedy and carry-on films and things. You famously used to have Frankie Howard on your show.
Shut your face.
I mean, we're talking my era now.
I know, I remember once saying to him, am I common as muck? And he said, how shall I put this? Yes.
I used to love those because he was just genius. How does it feel different as a dynamic doing the podcast in front of an audience?
Oh, I loved it. I love an audience. And people seem to enjoy it, I think, this afternoon.
You enjoyed singing, didn't you?
Oh, I loved a bit of singing, yeah.
And just before you go, I'm asking everybody this weekend, what's one podcast that you really enjoy that you would like to recommend?
Well, I do like the newsagents because they express their opinions, and I don't agree with them always, but I just think it's a real good catch-up, yeah.
We've just watched Top Comments with the wonderful Marianna Spring. We were talking about algorithms. What's your algorithm like?
My algorithm is a right mess, but mainly because I investigate all the bad stuff. So then I just get recommended more and more conspiracy theory content, misinformation, hate, all that kind of stuff. I would say that I do cleanse it with some cat content, and also I love football, so I get quite a lot of, at the moment, lots of nice World Cup stuff. But yeah, my algorithm is a pickle, and it probably should be, or I wouldn't be very good at my job.
What is it like when you do a podcast live in front of an audience? How does the dynamic change for you?
It's really interesting because, I love it because it means that you get to actually meet people who listen to the podcast. They often ask brilliant questions. They're really engaged and interested. I feel like you have to be much funnier than you are when you're actually recording, because no one will laugh other than the producer occasionally in your ear in the gallery, like, that was quite good. Or your co-presenter. So you are much more sort of engaged with the reactions, which I think is really positive for the podcast because it feels different to listeners, but it means that you're kind of on the same page as the audience and you're being led by what they're interested in and reacting to. And particularly with something like Top Comment, where we're investigating what's on social media that some people will have seen, some people won't have seen, you're conscious as well of making sure that you explain some of this kind of like social media glossary of terms, where you're like, if you haven't heard of maxing or you haven't heard of any of these words, yeah, exactly. But actually, they're brilliant to know and understand, because then someone might mention them and you're like, oh, that's what that was, or you see it in the comments or on your feed and you're like, oh, that's what that was, and that's kind of the purpose of it.
What is one podcast that you really love listening to that you'd like to recommend?
Oh, that's a really good question. I really like listening to long-form interviews. So I've really enjoyed Radical, which is one of the BBC's podcasts, where they'll do really interesting interviews with people like Elliot Higgins or Laura Bates about like sexism, or those are ones I particularly liked about open source journalism. And they're just really nice because the interviews breathe a bit and you go on a bit of a journey, and by the end you're like, oh, I didn't know that.
On Friday evening, the Audio Academy ran a session about the podcast MF Doom, Long Island to Leeds, which is a Persephonica production with BBC Sound's Audio Lab. I spoke with the first-time podcast creator Adam Batty and executive producer Ellie Clifford. And after that, we hear from stand-up comedian David Eagle, who took part in Don't Say a Word, the Radio 4 stand-up specials, and Loose Ends. We've just seen the MF Doom Long Island to Leeds session. Adam, it was amazing to hear the story of how you had never made a podcast before and now suddenly you've ended up with one of the most successful podcasts.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. For me, it was an amazing entry point to making podcasts. I've done other creative stuff. I've worked, in other fields. But for this to be the first thing that I've ever done is kind of, it's like a dream. It's unreal.
You did this in collaboration with BBC Audiolab. Just tell us how that came about.
Yeah, so Audiolab's a scheme that the BBC have run for the last 4 years, and the idea is that it gets creatives from other fields, I guess, into the podcasting industry. I applied for that online about a year ago now, and there's 1,000 applicants or whatever it is, and 5 are selected to be made into podcasts. And so then you work closely with Calic, the commissioner of Audiolab, and you are placed with a production studio. So I was placed with Persephonica in Sheffield. I lived in Sheffield at the time. And then you work day to day with Persephonica making the actual podcast whilst the BBC have full oversight of it. And the idea is then it will go onto the BBC's platforms and beyond. And you were telling us in the session, tell us how many views it's had now. It was over 1 million, wasn't it? Yeah, so the trailer that we put out on the day of launch has had over 1.2 million views, which is... That's amazing, I can't quantify that. No. I can't. It's hard to get your head around that, isn't it? Yeah, it's crazy, but it all comes back to that idea that we were telling a story that I really, really wanted to tell. For me, that's the anchor through the whole project, is this little story, a little weird story that I wanted to sort of bring to an audience.
How did one of hip-hop's most iconic figures end up settling down in the north of England?
For me, being into Doom is the ultimate green flag for a hip-hop fan. Like, if you say you're into Doom, then we're good to go.
I'm Adam Batty, and I've been charting the fateful final years of the life of Daniel Dumoulin, a.k.a. MF Doom, an enigmatic American rapper who passed away in my hometown of Leeds in 2020.
And chairing the panel was Ellie Clifford from Persephonica, and you were executive producer of this for Persephonica. Tell me what that entailed.
Well, it was a really fun process because we really believe in kind of helping to grow new talents. Adam, it was actually really fun to work with you because, like you say, you have already done creative things, but maybe just not this specific medium, and I felt that hopefully you'll agree that I sort of walked you through the process and that what we did is had a lot of fun in the making of it. And also, it's just one of those projects that's a real dream to work on because the content is so great.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I used to be a lecturer, and we used to talk about dream time. Like, when you're a student, you get to have unabashed focus on some of the, in the real world, you'd never get to do. However, this feels like that too. And so the idea at my age, having worked in industry for 20 years, to be able to be in a position where I could just focus so intently on a single project, it was a dream, dream time. So, yeah. And I guess you're liaising with BBC Sounds, Audiolab, Persephonica are making it. You're liaising with Adam as well as executive producer.
Yeah, that's right. I think part of my role in it was to bring all of these different places together and make sure that we get some great content so that, Adam, you could concentrate on actually just making a really good show. And I was very happy to do that. It was nice, I think, to see you grow in confidence as the series went on, both in your producing but also in your presenting.
The soundtrack. Tell us about the soundtrack.
Yeah, so the soundtrack was by Matt Helders from the Arctic Monkeys, Sheffield, legends. Yeah, it's still surreal to me that we got him to agree to do it, and he's a real MF Doom fan, and that's kind of like the overriding thing. The string that comes through this whole project is that everyone who did it, if it's Matt, Ramesh Ranganathan, to Juice Aline, people that just really care about MF Doom, did it because they love the guy and his music and wanted to pay tribute to him.
David Eagle, comedian and folk singer. Well, from the Young'uns. I bloody love the Young'uns.
Oh, excellent. And I love you too, Georgie. Big fan of your work.
You also have a podcast. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the podcast, I suppose, is just, I don't know, like a haphazard, in the way that podcasts are, a sort of a haphazard expression of thoughts, and it doesn't feel like it has to be kind of a serialised thing of like, it has a beginning and a middle and an end and that kind of thing. You can kind of do it when you want, and I just think that's really nice. So it's me and my wife, Ellie, who'll present it, and sometimes it'll just be me having a walk in the park, and I'll just like bump into people sometimes and like meet, well, obviously being blind, I'll often bump into people, and then you get chatting to people, and so it's various characters that we come across en route, and then all sorts of random features, like for instance, I've just discovered a big box of Braille books. So being blind, obviously I read Braille, and I discovered, my dad found this in the garage, this story that I wrote when I was 9, and I had no recollection of writing it, and it's this big like fantasy novella, and so we started dramatising this story, and I've like put sound effects on it and all sorts. It's called The Story of the Brain King, and it's just like something that I would never have realised. It's just, I just found it in a box, and now we're doing it, and people are writing in, and it's brilliant. I just love the fact that you can do whatever you want, and there's no kind of like structure of it has to be this or it has to be that.
There's no barriers to podcasting, is there? No. Well, tell us, what's the name of the podcast?
So the podcast is just called, rather egotistically, the David Eagle Podcast.
There you go. You can find it wherever you get your podcast.
Yes, unless you have some weird niche thing that I've never heard of. Yeah.
On to Saturday now, and in a moment you'll hear from one of the festival co-founders, Dino Sophos, and after that, Dilly Carter from the Sort Your Life Out Unpacked podcast. But first, I turned a corner and came across something quite unexpected.
Relax the shoulders, keep the core strong, take 2 more breaths. Anybody want to close their eyes?
It's Saturday morning.
Amazing.
Sheffield, Bucks Pool, right outside City Hall.
We're having a go at Eagle now, so lift down slightly.
And Cole Brothers.
Right leg a little bit further over the left.
I was just about to go and watch another podcast session when I discovered there's yoga going on. So it's not just podcasts. There's yoga going on the centre stage. And about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people, 7 ladies and 1 very game, 9 ladies, I've just spotted someone else, and 1 very game man doing yoga. Which is not what you'd expect at a podcast festival, but it's lovely. Very relaxing for a Saturday morning. I would get up and have a go, but I'm sat in one of the deck chairs, and I don't even think I can get out of the deck chair, let alone do eagle pose, which is what she's doing at the moment. This is the thing about Crosswise, there's always something quite unexpected. You turn a corner, and there's something else happening around the city. It's really great. Dino, another great festival again. 3rd year of Crosswires. It's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it's our 3rd year. This year we've got 11 venues, 80 shows over 4 days. So we started on Thursday and going all the way through to Sunday evening. It's, it feels a lot bigger, better, and crucially more fun than ever. So we've got an outdoor stage this year, which we didn't have last year. The strapline is podcasting's biggest party, and it certainly feels like that.
Yeah, it does.
I think what we're all starting to get our heads around slowly is that live podcasting doesn't just mean 2 people sat in an armchair having a chat. It can be that, and I've just actually watched a really interesting chat with Nick Robinson and Louise Haig, who's going to be in Andy Burnham's cabinet on political thinking, and that was just that, but it was fascinating, and they were recording that show. But then there are other shows, like we did Bad Chat with Greg James and Alice Levine the other night, where we had Gunge, where there was crowd work, where Stephen Graham made a cameo appearance via voice notes, and it was just lovely, fun, organised chaos. And then, in the outdoor stage, we've got a choir, we've got a magician tomorrow, yoga, so stuff that you can sort of loosely follow while you're having a drink and a chat with your mates.
The thing about Crosswires is you turn a corner and you see something unexpected.
Yeah, and I think the reason that Sheffield works particularly well for a festival of this nature is it's such a small footprint, and you can literally walk in a straight line past all the venues within about 10 minutes start to finish, and you'll go past the City Hall, our main venue, the BBC Sounds Fringe, the Radio 4 Fringe, and then the Crucible. And we're just spoilt for choice here, and it's just such a great vibe, isn't it? Everybody's just lovely, having a great time. The weather's held out for us. It's not too hot. So lovely times.
fantastic times. And this has been a big week for you. I saw on Instagram you spoke to the Parliamentary Select Committee.
Oh, gosh, yeah, but that wasn't fun at all. That wasn't as fun as this. That was a hot...
No, but you made a really important point about, and I know you're passionate about this, because Persephonica is here in Sheffield and you give work to people who have born and brought up here who don't want to leave. And that was what you were talking about to the Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee.
It's a scandal, basically, because there are no jobs in the areas, and a lot of the areas where people are being educated, where they're training. They would have to leave the region or their home city to go and get a job in the industry they want to work in. So we're able to do something about that in a small way initially, but I think it presents a massive opportunity. Look, I think Crossed Wires is amazing. We are bringing, it'll be 35,000 people to the city this weekend, to Sheffield. But that's just one weekend. What I really want to see is Sheffield and Yorkshire more broadly become a real podcasting kind of focal point for the UK, the capital of podcasting, if you like. London's brilliant, but everything happens in London, and we need stuff to happen elsewhere in the UK. And not only that, it's, not everybody can afford to, especially if you're a young student graduating from Sheffield University or Barnsley College or Bradford, you can't afford necessarily to just up sticks, go and do some free work experience in London. What's been great about Crossed Wires is that 3 of the volunteers already from the past few years have got full-time jobs working at Persephonica, and they just wouldn't have been afforded that opportunity if it wasn't for the festival here, if we weren't giving them hands-on experience, if they weren't meeting Greg James in the street and producing his show and, writing his script. Even little things, right? Like, just having a chat with him in the pub is just life-changing for people, and, they can get that sort of immediate contact. We're having really interesting conversations about what my vision sort of looks like in Sheffield. And, I've just been speaking to the guys from Apple who are involved this year. We've got Patreon, we've got Acast, we've got the BBC in a big way. They had 1 venue last year, now they've got 2. We're pushing at an open door, I think, but we need to all get together and go, right, how do we make this amazing ecosystem of kind of live podcasts, but also with Persephonica, with our productions that we make, our always-on productions where we're employing people throughout the year. How do we kind of double down on that and make it even bigger? And I want to see, I want to see my competitors from other production companies come to Sheffield and base themselves here. And it's just such a great place to live and work.
I just so happen to be 1/4 of a little show you may have heard of called Sort Your Life Out. Can I have a big cheer if you've heard of Sort Your Life Out?
I'm with Dilly Carter from Sort Your Life Out, Unpacked. Just done a session.
Yeah.
How did it go?
I think it went really well. I hope so. It was my first live podcast that I've ever done. Vicky Patterson was amazing. I think we had a little bit of everything. Laughter, tears, joy, tips. And that's what the podcast is about. So, yeah, I really loved it.
And how are you enjoying the festival?
I'm loving the festival. It's so great. I think these live events are always great just to bring people together, to hear live action voices, because we watch so much on our screens, don't we? So it's lovely just to sit and watch an audience and see people interact and just be yourself. I think that's what I love about podcasts when they're live, is that you just have a natural conversation. It's just watching 2 people like they're in their front room having a chat.
It's a slightly different experience having a live audience though, isn't it?
It is a really different experience because there's no pause, stop, and it's not like, oh, okay, well, we'll edit that bit out. It's all there. It's all there for the taking, and I think that's great because people love real life stuff, don't they? And we don't get enough of it. Everything is so polished nowadays. So I think it's lovely just to have that raw edge of it and to see 2 people just talk and bounce off each other. And I think Vicky and I did that really well today.
And you've just done a meet and greet at the BBC Sounds Garden. How did that go? Meeting your fans?
Yeah, gosh, don't say that. It still blows my mind that anyone watches the show. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I always feel very like an imposter syndrome when people come up and say they want to talk to me or say hello, because we just do what we do every day on the show. We love it. Our goal is to help families, to change lives, but actually what the show does is actually change lives in so many different ways. The things that we're able to do to change that really does affect their long-term goals in their life, so it's great.
And finally, Dilly, what's one podcast you love you'd like to recommend?
I'm a big business inspirer. I'm a big motivator of women doing well, so at the moment my one I love most is Emma Greed, Aspire.
Coming up shortly, ARIA winner of Best Speech Entertainment Show, Anushka Mutando-Doherty from Fame Under Fire. I discover the Loose Lips local podcast stage, and Dan Simpson from Fun Kids sends me a voice note from backstage. But first, Livy Haydock is an investigative journalist, reporter and presenter with a passion for true crime. She presents the Gangster podcast, and the latest series, The Story of Georgie Pye, is out in August. I asked her why she thinks true crime podcasts are so popular.
Yeah, it's huge. And I think it's always been huge, but now with the internet, it's more exposed than ever. But if you look back at, centuries ago, everyone went to the public hangings. We've always had this weird obsession with Jack the Ripper. So I don't think it is actually anything new. I think the internet is just letting people know about it.
Why do you think we have that obsession, though, with these true crime stories?
Honestly, I don't know. I can't even tell you what my kind of obsession is with true crime. I think
you've studied it and you're a journalist and, it's been your life for a long time.
Absolutely, yeah. And I, for me, I'd say I need to understand how something works to then you realise how to stop it. And if you look at the era of the armed robbery, you had the flying squad and they changed the way money was moved. Problem solved, and so there is always a way to solve something. And so I think for me it's like learning a puzzle and then trying to come up with, okay, I think this is the solution. Whether or not they act on it, no. I don't know.
There's something fascinating about the bad guys, though, isn't there?
Oh, for sure, yeah. I find anyone who has chosen to live outside the normal constraints of society interesting. Or often I find criminals, if anything, they highlight the weaker areas in our society, and that's what they do. They exploit those. And so I think there's an awful lot we can learn from crime.
Is it your first time up here?
Yeah, this is my first time. I was so nervous. Like yesterday, I was moody. I was so nervous, jumpy.
Because you're going to be in front of a live audience?
Yeah, because it's so funny doing. I used to do a bit of TV, but you're talking to a camera, so that's okay. Talking to a mic with a podcast, that's fine. Talking to one-on-one people, fine. A group of people expecting something, I'm like, oh no, this can only go wrong.
But it was brilliant. It was. There was a lot of true crime fans in the room.
To be fair, yeah, we had a good audience, I think. But and it was great. And I had Hayley Mortimer with me, who's an excellent journalist and series producer of Gangster. So that was a huge comfort. And I think together we got through.
It's been lovely to meet you. Just one last question I'm asking everyone. What's one podcast that you're really enjoying that you would like to recommend?
I love Uncanny. I'm a very superstitious person. Actually, that stuff freaks me out more than the real stuff. Yeah. So listen to Danny Robbins investigate, and I love listening to the kind of non-believers and the skeptics and having the scientific, evidence. And but sometimes they're stumped too, and that's when I thought, oh wow. But I'd love to team up with Danny Robbins and do something about UK prisons, because I've got so many ghost stories from inmates that have been to some really shocking prisons, and some guards as well have told me some spooky stories, and they're a superstitious bunch.
That would be a hell of a collaboration.
I think so, yeah. I'll bring the crims, you bring the spooks.
We'll see what happens.
Get a Ouija board out, we're all good. Yeah.
We've just seen the incredible Fame Under Fire with ARIA winner for Best Speech Entertainment, Anushka Mutando-Doherty, and also friend of the Audio Academy podcast as well. How did you feel it went?
I think it went really well. I mean, it's always a joy when I get to be in person with Sean. Yeah. He's a million miles away from me usually, even though he gets on my last nerve. But it's such a blessing as well to have everybody in there and people wanting to hear what we have to say. Amen.
It was kind of like a retrospective of a lot of the work that you'd done already on the podcast. We went right back to the days of Diddy.
Yeah, I mean, will we ever escape the clutches of Diddy? Maybe not. I think he's going to be in my life for the rest of my life. But yeah, we were looking at kind of the trials that changed things. So starting with the advent of the celebrity trial with the OJ trial through to Diddy and how that has altered the landscape through the rise of short-form media and it impacting the jury and their decision-making processes. And then taking a look at what we think the next big trial that could change things would be. And we decided, we think that might be the Macrons suing Candace Owens in Delaware, because that one is just wild.
Just Just let me take you back to that aria. How did that feel winning that just a few weeks ago?
Well, they were like, just keep drinking because you're not going to win. And we were like 75 miles away from the stage. We really didn't think we were going to be in for that one. So I'm just glad that I was coherent when I got to the mic because Lord knows, I wasn't seeing straight. I'll tell you that for free.
And just before you go, because you're about to go into the Sounds Garden, do a meet and greet, what's one podcast you're enjoying at the moment you'd like to recommend?
Gangster.
Yeah, we just saw that the one before.
My producer makes that as well.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much. I'm in Leah's yard. We're at the Loose Lips kind of fringe bit, really, but where there's lots of local podcasts. Tell us your name and why you're here and what's your podcast.
My name's Paul Bestall from Sheffield, and I'm the host of Mysteries and Monsters, which is a Fortean conversation show that's been running for 8 years now.
And tell us what it's all about then. What is Fortean conversation?
It is various discussions diving into the weird and wonderful and strange and frightening aspects of the world, from folklore to ufology to cryptozoology to ghosts, monsters and all kinds of weird and wonderful subjects, which is what fires me up and keeps me moving forwards in the world.
As a local podcast then, made here and about South Yorkshire, but does it travel, do you have listeners from all over the world, or do you try and keep it very local?
The vast majority of my listeners are in North America. I would say a third of my listeners are from the UK. The rest are from States, Canada, Ireland, Australia. It just shows you the power of the internet, I think, because I find it quite humbling when you see that people in Sweden or Japan or something have downloaded an episode. It just shows you how far you can go, especially as a one-man band, as I am. The fact that I've managed to build it up with just hard work and the reputation of the quality of the shows and the guests and people like David that come on, it just keeps surprising me, I
think that's the power of storytelling. If you've got good stories, it doesn't really matter where they're about. They will appeal to people who love a good story.
Well, yes, and I think one of the positives I often get, and like we've just done there, is people always say my show is like listening to two old friends sat in a pub having a chat, and they've just happened to sit in the next booth. And I'm all about more positive conversations. There are enough confrontational shows out there, and that's not really my cup of tea. I'd rather just talk to people.
Hey Georgie, you joined me backstage right before our very first Fun Kids Science Quest live show of 2026. We had a stellar run with hundreds of kids coming out last year. Very excited to be back on the road for a space special this time out. It's been amazing to see really invested and excited kids who only know me through the podcast live on stage and helping to bring science to life in that way. I think the way that we keep children and young people interested in audio content and help them learn without knowing it is by finding a niche that speaks to them. So we are a science show, one of the only family science shows in the world. We're excited about that, and that's the other one. It's passion, it's being excited. Excitement is contagious. So if I'm speaking to them as a hopefully slightly cooler older brother, and I'm really invested and excited by this thing that I'm learning, then they will be too. And I think it's excitement, it's passion, and it's doubling down on that really keeps kids interested in podcasts. As for a podcast that I'd recommend, I'm a radio geek at heart. Always have been, always will be. So it's amazing to be on the Audio Academy podcast. So The Hamish and Andy Show, absolute Australian radio legends. If you've not caught up with what they're doing for maybe the 9th year of their podcast, it's brilliant how they've managed to translate the best parts of their radio show onto a podcast. So I would heartily recommend any radio geek like me listen along. Right, I can hear them calling my name. I need to go and explore space with 300 or so very excited 9-year-olds. Cheers, Georgie.
A big thank you to Crosswires for inviting me to cover the festival again this year. I had a great time, as always, in Sheffield. Crosswires will be back for 2027 from the 1st to the 4th of July, so keep an eye on their website, crosswires.live. The Air Audio Academy 30 Under 30 is open for you to apply or to nominate a friend or colleague for this prestigious accolade in the audio industry. Go to audioacademy.org.uk/30 Under 30 for more details. There's still time to book a ticket for our summer social in London on the 16th of July at the Lantern from 7 to 9 p.m. It's free for Audio Academy members, and non-members can sign up for just £4. Go to audioacademy.org.uk/events to book your place. Next week, I chat with Alice Nagendran, BBC Head of Business, Radio and Music Commissioning, all about this new role and how the BBC have improved how they engage with audio indie companies. I'll see you next week.